Fond farewells for President Trump from the Macrons last night. From journalists, a question. Had he signed his agreement with Iran?
Sign it. Give your side. Sign.
The stories made in Versailles.
Made in Versailles, quite the endorsement for a document purporting to reshape the Middle East.
This was not easy.
One already being characterized by friends and foes in the US and in Israel as capitulation. So what has Donald Trump signed up to, or to his critics, signed away? Within the MOU, confirmation that a final deal would provide Iran with a reconstruction fund worth at least $300 billion, along with a pledge to terminate all types of sanctions against it. In the meantime, the US will immediately issue waivers for the export of Iranian crude oil and during the negotiations make fully available for use Iran's frozen or restricted funds and assets. In return, Iran says it will not procure or develop nuclear weapons, that it will allow at a minimum the downblending on site of its highly enriched uranium, and that it would discuss the issue of future enrichment. Trump insists he'll get what he wants on the nuclear issue from those negotiations, in the meantime focusing on the gains from a toll-free reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Those who didn't understand that, he posted today, were either jealous, bad or stupid. On state media, Iran's president shown with his version of the document, its chief negotiator saying the agreement confirmed the status of the strait had changed.
We must manage it. That management will be carried out according to the laws that belong to the coastal country of the strait. That is, we have responsibility and sovereignty there. Naturally, there are services, and in return, there's a fee for this work.
The text also includes language on respecting Lebanon's territorial integrity, seen as shorthand for an Israeli withdrawal from the south, where today Israeli strikes killed 3 people and Hezbollah fired rockets at Israeli positions. Since the initial ceasefire in April, Israel's claimed a buffer zone in southern Lebanon, bordered by a so-called forward defense line. Far from signaling withdrawal, today the Israeli military put out a new version, pushing deeper into Lebanese territory. Israel's Prime Minister being heavily criticized at home for failing to secure real gains from the war, months out from a general election.
Netanyahu will not withdraw from Lebanon, no matter, without any connection to the election, because it's unacceptable in Israeli eyes to withdraw and have Hezbollah again on our northern border.
Today, Netanyahu telling Israelis the challenges weren't over, that his was the calm judgment required to meet them and preserve the US relationship, something the US Vice President made no easier this afternoon.
Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
Vance also said the 60-day negotiating period officially begins today, as more civilians return to southern Lebanon, at once home to some of the strongest hopes for and biggest threats to the talks' success.
Well, joining me now is Professor Jacob Nagel, who is Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and previously served as Benjamin Netanyahu's National Security Advisor. Thanks very much for coming on the program, Professor. You heard the Vice President...
Good evening from Israel.
It's good to have you here. You heard the Vice President JD Vance say that basically, the Americans are your only friends, and they're very upset that your government has criticized this deal with Iran, and you better think about it. I mean, he was almost threatening you. What do you make of that?
Look, I'm not going to attack our best ally and friends, but I'm just going to talk about facts. Now, again, Israel and the US did this very, very, very great performance against the terrorists of Iran, their nuclear program, their ballistic missile program, and their whole infrastructure of terror around us, including Lebanon and other places. Now, it's legitimate for the United States to admit that they are going to appease Iran, and unfortunately, Iran played very well the only card and chip they had in this asymmetric war, and this is the Hormuz Strait. Now, I am just looking on facts. And again, as I'm saying, President Trump and Vice President Vance and Witkoff and Kushner, everyone, they have a legitimacy to put the American interests ahead of their best ally
But
in
are
this
you
area.
not worried that?
Interest.
But are you not worried that you're isolated in this? That your
I am,
best
again,
friends have turned their back on you, and that is also a fact, is it not?
Look, I'm just talking about facts, and in a moment I'll say I just looked on the talking points that Vice President Vance and Kushner just put out, and it's totally. I'm sorry, but it's totally of things that are not true. For example, that the Iranians for the first time agreed not to develop a nuclear weapon. Go to the JCPOA that I criticized very much together with President Trump, that he did a great thing that he went out. What he's doing now is much worse than the Obama deal. I know you don't like when someone is saying so, but we have to know the truth. They are saying that they didn't go to the JCPOA written. Iran reaffirms that they are not going to have a nuclear program ever.
Professor,
I didn't believe them then. I don't believe them now.
Just to be clear, you think that the deal that Trump has got and that he may negotiate is worse than the deal that was signed between Obama and Iran in 2015, which your Prime Minister Netanyahu never liked?
And President Trump called the worst deal ever for the United States. But again, we are comparing two things that are different. Here is only a MOU, a memorandum of understanding, that it's only written things are inside is that Iran is getting now paid from the United States, paid so-called, because opening the straits and they can export all of their oil, they will get billions of dollars. They are getting paid in cash, not buckets of cash or planes of cash, but they are getting paid immediately, and they gave the United States, the only thing they gave them, they opened the Strait of Hormuz. It doesn't belong to them, what was not supposed to be closed. And they gave them a delayed check without any cover. Again, I don't know.
We have very little time left. Let me ask you one. Let me ask you one other question.
Give me the answer. I'll give you an answer. You asked me about the deal. There is no deal. There is an agreement. The deal that I see will come from this room. I see there will never be a deal. But if there will be, it will be worse than 2015.
All right. Let's in one word. Is this unfinished business for you in Iran? And if there's any trouble, will you alone go back and take on the Iranians militarily? Yes or no?
We didn't talk about Lebanon that Israel will never withdraw from, and Iran is a problem. And when Prime Minister Netanyahu said, we are not going to allow Iran to have a nuclear bomb, not that they will say. If we'll see something that is threatening the existence of the state of Israel, Israel knows how to do things in Iran also alone. Again, it doesn't have to be with planes. We know we have many other things that we can do in Iran without having hundreds of planes in the sky of Tehran.
I wish we had more time to discuss it. There's a lot out there that we haven't dealt with yet.
2 hours,
So
but
we're going to leave it there now. Professor Nagel, thank you very much indeed. Okay, speak to you again. So how is the Trump agreement being received back home in the United States? Let's go straight to our US editor, Anushka Astana. Anushka, tell us.
You've just heard from JD Vance, the Vice President, who is trying to make an argument he thinks will go down well with voters here, suggesting that reopening the Strait of Hormuz means Americans are waking up today with slightly lower petrol prices, also arguing that American taxpayers are protected, that they won't pay a penny towards that $300 billion. Although, Matt, then who will? I've been speaking to diplomats from Gulf states who say our economies have been whacked. We're not going to take responsibility for that on our own. And then there is the question of Israel, which has become such a flashpoint on the right here. We've already seen commentators who are more anti-Israel split from the president over this war quite explosively, people like Tucker Carlson. Well, now some of those on the right who supported this war, people like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levine, are furious with what they are seeing and hearing, including that language from the vice president. As you can imagine, it's all being discussed behind me in the Capitol. Have a listen to some of the reaction.
What strikes me is not only the hundreds of billions of dollars that are going to go to Iran that it can use to fund its proxies or its rebuilding of its military, but also the complete lack of any verification. I think there has to be a lot of soul searching in this administration. Hegseth should go.
Let's give peace a chance. I think that's all the president is saying. I read the document last night, and I've heard all of the speculation and what about this and what about that and what if this happens and what if that doesn't happen. We'll know in 60 days.
What I'm looking for, does this create a pathway to peace throughout the region, or is it sort of a tactical setback for Iran? Time will tell, but I'm glad we're on the course, on the path to diplomacy, and we'll know in the coming weeks what kind of deal we will get. And I talked to Woodcoff, and Steve's been a good friend for a long time. I said, pursue a good deal, but be ready to walk away.
At the end there, Senator Lindsey Graham, who has been a critical voice in Donald Trump's ear in all of this, a very hawkish voice when it came to Iran, very pro-military action. Trust me, he will be very worried right now. But as you just heard, he is holding back, giving the president a chance.